Hello everyone, this is the video for Monday 4/13, the Monday of week 13. Oh, it must be an unlucky day, lots of 13s. Just kidding, it'll be a lucky day because you're turning in your CRP, unless you've already reached out to me about using your one free late pass. And I think only one group has done that so far, so you're doing that by 11:59, and this video is basically just a list of last-minute things to think about, last-minute reminders, clarifications on different parts of the paper, which will hopefully be a good thing to look at as you begin your final day of editing. So I'll go through each section of the paper in turn and let you know one or two things that I think are important for finalizing that section of the paper. So, top left of the assignment, check to make sure that you've got your team name and all of the individual names, and my name, and the date that you turn in the assignment. Always put the date that you're turning in an assignment. Anytime you submit an essay or anything like that, you can be sort of tempted to put the date, whatever day it is that you're just drafting the paper, and then forget to change it. And your teacher will see like an old date, and they'll wonder if you've worked on it since then. So just a little kind of tidbit there. And the assignment itself should have a title that's informative and giving me an indication of what the paper is actually about. So don't just say CRP or collaborative project. And then the first section of the paper is obviously that introduction. In the introduction, you are explaining what your focus is. So what is this issue? And then you're also coming up with a plan for your research. So telling me where you will look for sources, what kind of sources you'll try to find. Basically, you can use the iSearch introduction as a model for this. And one student asked me over Zoom the other day, how long should this be? It can be a page, it can be a little less or more than a page. 2 paragraphs is a fine amount to have. You're also including the thesis statement in here, in which you provide an answer or as close to an answer as you can get to this big question. So you're kind of prefiguring the answers that you will get later on in the body of the essay. So next comes the lit review. The lit review seems like a separate thing because we kind of talk about it as a separate thing, but this is really just the body of the essay. And this can have a subheader or a subtitle that just says lit review. It doesn't have to have a fancy name because lit review is like a type of thing. So just says lit review, and then you dive into all of the sources that you're finding for this paper. And the word count for the lit review can be anywhere between 1,000 to 1,500 words. It's the longest part of this paper though, so think of this as really the biggest chunk of this paper. And it's just coming right after the introduction in the same document, so it's not a separate thing. The name of the game for the lit review is synthesis. So you're going in order of your questions. You're finding more than one source that can talk about that question and comparing and contrasting them. So in the intro, the thing that I'm looking at the most is the hook and the thesis statement. Lit review, the thing I'm looking at the most is this idea of synthesis. Okay, after that comes the qualitative research section. That is kind of a fancy name for just your interview or your survey. So the information that you're generating as a group. And as opposed to like finding information that other people have come up with. By all means, you can relate the answers you're getting from your survey or interview back to sources you've already talked about. That's actually a really interesting thing to be able to do. So you say, our interview told us this interesting fact about opioid addiction that matches with this source that we found in our lit review. So that you're kind of continuing that idea of synthesis. And then after the qualitative research section comes the conclusion, where you might be offering some kind of proposal or idea about how, let's say, a community can fight invasive species or can restore funding to districts. If you were able to come up with any informative idea for a community that's facing the problem that you've chosen to write about based on the research you've done, that's really cool. Or maybe you've come up with an answer to the question that you were starting out with, like you've talked about in your thesis statement. So in other words, kind of leaving your reader feeling like we have some kind of answers, even if we haven't answered everything. And just like your iSearch, you can leave your reader off with areas of further inquiry, questions you maybe weren't able to answer, but are still worth pursuing. And then, as always, you finish with your works cited or your reference page, depending on what citation style you're doing. And yeah, so those are a few things to be thinking about in each section as you finalize the paper. And I would say this is where group communication is the most important, this last day. So if your group mates have kind of, let's say, fallen off the wagon, or you're having trouble communicating with people, now is the time to reach out to them and say, hey, let's get linked up on Zoom or on a phone call. This is really a thing to do with audio, at least. And then do the final editing for this paper. Go through paragraph by paragraph and chat with each other about what you think needs to change. If you are having trouble communicating with your group mates, reach out to me and I will try to reach out to them. And the name of the game for the rest of the semester is being as stress-free and accommodating as possible, because I know how topsy-turvy things have been. So if you are feeling like, oh man, there's no way we can finish this, or like you need some kind of accommodation from me, just reach out to me and I will work with you. But barring that, the due date is by the end of today, so do your best to complete the final edits. And yeah, maybe I'll hear from you. But I definitely look forward to reading your CRPs. So yeah, I'll see you tomorrow.